I'm afraid we're going to look at a cup draw for all the wrong reasons this morning, what's left of it. Women's Super League clubs have been left angry over a lack of professionalism in their eyes during last night's League Cup quarter-final and semi-final draw, which included sexual references and a ball being mistakenly put back into the bag. The draw was hosted by influencer GK Barry and Portsmouth footballer Ella Rutherford. It was streamed live on TikTok. At one point, Barry pulled a ball out the bag, accidentally put it back into the bag, and then pulled it out again. During the sequence, Barry said, "Am I allowed to do that? I've done it now. It's too late. Oh, I picked up the same ball." Suffice to say, this was one mess. In a moment, we're going to speak to Telegraph football reporter, women's football reporter, Kathryn Batte. But here's a sample of what I'm talking about.
Send a galaxy if you think I've got a bigger bum than Ella. We love a big doll. Yeah. These are my balls. Right here on show. Get a load of it. Usually I'd charge. Lesbian handling balls. Never been seen before. Sorry about the travel, sweethearts. What do we think of Tottenham? If anyone's turned on by me doing this, send a galaxy. Me wee hen. We should spank for luck. Bit of fun.
So that gives you a rough idea of what we witnessed. Telegraph women's football reporters Kathryn Batte, as I said. Kathryn, no doubt you watched it live. This is part of what you do. What did you think of it?
It was unconventional, Jim. It's not like a cup draw I've ever seen before. Usually it's a little bit less chaotic, but it was actually quite hard to follow who had drawn who, which was obviously the main part of it. And I think that was one of the gripes of people watching as well, is that no one kind of really knew what was going on. I'm not sure the two hosts knew an awful lot about what was going on either. And it's obviously just not the best look for women's football. I mean, this is a cup competition that I think we struggle to get interest in anyway. You think of the Men's League Cup, it's a competition that people maybe don't get excited about until we get to the end. And with the women's, it's certainly people don't really get excited until they get to the final. So when you have a draw that kind of makes it look like a bit of a joke, it doesn't really help the competitions, in that sense, really. So it wasn't a great thing to witness.
And a bit of a joke, although, Kathryn, the Women's Super League clubs aren't laughing. They're angry this morning, I believe.
Yeah, they are, because, like I say, it just reflects badly on the league. It makes women's football look unprofessional. I mean, obviously, if you're Tottenham, I think you'd probably be more unhappy given you were kind of on the receiving end of some of those jokes. But I think for all of the clubs that were sort of sat watching it, I think they just couldn't really believe what they were seeing. They all kind of buy into the fact that they've got to attract new audiences, and I understand that there's a big women's football audience on TikTok, and that younger fans might be there and they might want to watch because, GK Barry's a big influencer, and they understand the need for that, but they want the draw to be done professionally and properly, and it just felt like this wasn't the case with that.
Simon, do you think there's a danger that you lose face chasing after this TikTok generation?
Well, first and foremost, I don't think we should compare what happens in women's football to what happens in men's football, because I think that's an unfair comparison. If we're judging it by the standards of men's draws, we can look at Rod Stewart half cup when he did a draw once. We can look at the crassness of what she said and say, well, it's not really necessary. We can look at the fact that we are constantly suggesting that the audience that watches women's football is a very different dynamic, has a very different feel to it, and a very different approach is required towards it. We've seen it in recent examples of the way that broadcasters seem to think that ultimately things need to be broadcast on certain. We saw Sky the other day making a Horlicks of their Halo version of broadcasting.
Yeah.
So I think they have to be careful about what they do. But I'm not that massively offended by it. I mean, I don't know why the clubs would be, because they probably want to be taken very seriously and take themselves very seriously. And they think it was a little bit lightweight and crass. But whether we like influencers or we don't, whether we think that they have a place in broadcasting, you can make this argument about Jake Paul. What does he have a place in? He has a place at the top table in boxing now. So we have to be balanced in our view. But yeah, it's not my cup of tea. Sometimes I feel we sit here like Waldorf and Stadler, from the Muppets on the balcony looking down on this situation.
Steptoe and Son, more like.
No, not Steptoe and Son. Well, we can imagine what you Hercules the horse in.
Do you think there's a space, Kathryn, for these so-called influencers in the women's game?
Yeah, I actually don't think the issue was with GK Barry doing the draw. I think it was just how the draw was conducted, and maybe that she potentially hadn't been briefed on what to say and what not to say and what to do and what not to do in terms of not putting a ball back into a bag. I mean, I remember Serge from Kasabian and Noel Gallagher doing the men's FA Cup draw, a while ago, and that was quite fun to watch, and it was a bit different. So I don't think the issue was necessarily who was doing the draw. I think it was just that it was a little bit chaotic and it didn't seem to have any kind of structure. And like I say, I mean, I agree with Simon. I think there is clearly a place and for influencers and trying to get to this new audiences, but I think maybe they just needed a little bit of direction. And obviously the main point of a draw is to know who's going to play who, and I feel like we kind of lost that a little bit, and I think that's maybe where the anger comes from. And I think maybe also because of some of the digs that were made at clubs throughout the process, and potentially that there's a lot of people that work in women's football that maybe would have liked that opportunity, that might have known a little bit more about how to sort of go about doing it. But like I say, I don't think GK Barry doing the draw was the issue. I think it was more kind of what came out of it.
Is the ball going back in the bag after being pulled out a contentious one? Is there people still asking questions about that?
I think because she pulled the same one out, I think she was lucky in that sense. If she'd have pulled a different ball out, then they would have had to have restarted it and done it again. So it was quite lucky that when she put it back in, she did actually bring the same one out. I don't think it's contentious in the sense of, look, obviously people online seem to think that the draw is fixed. I don't think that is the case. Do the big teams avoid each other? I think that's just, that just happens in draws. I just think she forgot what she was doing. So rather than putting the ball to the side, she just put it back in the bag. And thankfully she did pick out the same one, because like I say, if otherwise they would have had to have restarted it.
Do you know what, Jim? I've done a couple of draws, FA Cup ones in the past. And they're that rigid on the rules and stuff. What you You have to do a proper rehearsal.
Yeah.
You can't just turn up and go.
I've been there.
Honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't walk and talk and chew gum at the same time, can you? So pulling a ball out of the bag and putting it somewhere is difficult.
No, you're absolutely right, Danny. I've been there for Sky.
Myself.
Like, Danny will draw the home team, Simon will draw the away teams. I mean, the integrity of the draw is at stake in moments like this, Kathryn. That's the whole point. Do you think we'll see influencer GK Barry and Portsmouth footballer Ella Rutherford back to do a similar draw at some time in the future?
I mean, maybe, but I'd be surprised if they ever did the FA Cup draw. I think the FA would probably have other ideas. But maybe Subway think it went really well because they've got loads of publicity out of it, which they probably wouldn't have had otherwise. So maybe they might get them back next year. You never know.
Actually, to finish with, Kathryn, I'm looking at some of the messages coming in. You guys are overlooking it here. The sexual innuendo involved. How was that acceptable? I think that's a point, and that's a serious point, is it not?
It is, yeah. And listen, I think when you're appealing to younger generations of fans as well, that's something to consider. But I think that is part of GK Barry's persona, and I think she's just being herself. So when they've booked her, they probably need to say, and look, I know she's an adult and she can probably read into what she should and shouldn't say as well, but that is part of who she is. And somebody needed to brief her and say, look, you can have a laugh and a joke, but sort of this is the line and don't cross it. Whereas clearly, I don't think that was communicated to her.
Okay, Kathryn, thank you very much indeed. Kathryn Batte, Telegraph women's football reporter. You're right, Danny. There's serious moments, those cup draws. And you can feel the tension in the room when the draw is being made, whatever the draw, Scottish Cup, FA Cup, whatever, the League Cup. It gets fairly serious. What are you looking at me like that for? You presumably have never been asked.
I have. I've done a draw in here with you. For whatever it was, I can't remember.
Oh, he did. He's right. He's right. We did a draw in here. It will come back to me.
Yes,
and I remember it well because you made a hash of it.
Over 60s paddle championship.
That was the one. I will draw the over 60s paddle contestants